Hello, everyone. This is Anthony with the Dragons of Victory. I've said before that I am now an agnostic, having previously been raised Catholic. And without, spending too much time, reiterating stuff I've already said, I just after deciding I was done with traditional Catholicism and all that craziness, I still very, very much wanted to remain a Catholic. And I was excited about that. When I was mentally out of traditional Catholicism was my senior year of high school, and it took me quite a long time to fully understand how bad it was and to fully express what I needed to express and what I needed to say about all that. But, you know, spending your whole life only knowing the Catholic faith and always being told that the Novus Ordo was still legitimate. My parents were never of the opinion like that you exclusively have to go to the TLM. Not at all. They said before too. They've always been very kind of half in, half out. But I really tried, but I just simply couldn't help it. I The more I thought about it, the more because I was planning on going on YouTube like I am now. This is a few years ago now, but I was planning on doing kind of the same thing, except more so. I definitely would have produced more content on whatever YouTube channel I had if I had gone in this direction, which was to be like a Catholic apologist, to be someone who convinced me because I wanted to bring people into the faith despite thinking, okay, traditional Catholicism in my mind, I was like, that's insane, that's nuts. But the Catholic Church is still what's true and the real deal. But it was like, and I was at Catholic University at that point where I really wanted to go to, but it was just like sand slowly, slowly falling out of a sieve. I simply couldn't make it make sense. And I couldn't honestly say to myself, that everything I was believing or everything I was thinking about this came solely from a rational place, solely from a purely um, from like a basis of simply looking at the facts and eliminating any sort of preconceived notions or bias whatsoever, which is how you have to look at facts. I just felt more and more like I was being dishonest when I would be sitting in mass. I felt more and more like I was lying with my presence in a way to the rest of the congregation, despite kind of wanting to be there, kind of wanting to have to maintain something that had been so familiar to me and so comforting to me. And that's why so often, you know, I've gotten a lot of good comments from you guys for sure, but as you all know, it's the internet, it's YouTube, and um, the majority of a lot of the comments on my videos, especially the ones that get the most traction, are like um, coming out of the ass of a dumpster fire. It's just pure raw sewage uh, by a lot of people also claiming to be, the holiest people in the world and the best the people in the world. We're connected to that. We're sinners, right? But we're still connected to the best thing on the planet, and we know it, and you don't. And whenever I would hear specifically the line, this is true. You just want to sin. You just want to be bad. Every time I hear that, you got to understand, guys, whenever you leave that comment on any of my videos saying, I, Anthony Spurgeon, deep down know that everything I'm saying on here is bullshit and that the Catholic Church has it 100% right. And I am just, this is all based on emotion, right? This is all based on anger. That's it. That's your only motivation. Obviously, there's a degree of that, but it really just, every time I hear that, it just reinforces my agnosticism so much, or where I am now. It reinforces where I'm at. And I'm just more and more convinced of the reality that the Catholic Church is just not true because this is the best you got. That's all you can throw at me is that I'm I'm lying. I know it's true. I when I know the amount of time, the sheer amount of time I spent wishing so much that it was true, but just seeing more and more various pieces of evidence that just made that more and more, frankly, preposterous in my mind. Um, it's got me to the point where the more and more I've considered this, like I said, I've mentioned I'm an agnostic before, but I felt like always in kind of a like an apologetic way, always in sort of a half-hearted way, as if I'm not proud of it. And I wasn't proud of it, of being an agnostic. And I on the surface, yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing to say, yeah, I'm an agnostic and I'm proud of it because at the end of the day, agnostic is I don't know. Um, but it doesn't mean I know nothing. Honestly, I think Socrates is my hero. So at the end of the day, yeah, I know nothing. Fine. Um, guilty as charged. But there's something I realized recently where why is Socrates my hero? Why is I know that I know nothing so beautiful to me? Why at the same time does it sound so pathetic to say or so weak or so gross to say or like obviously I can't say that I know nothing otherwise I wouldn't be able to do anything, right? I couldn't function in a world if I knew nothing. Um well, like another guy, not necessarily a hero, but another philosopher named Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And that's pretty hard to argue with. Um, and for a long time, I actually went through a solipsistic phase where I was convinced that I was the only true intellect because I think, therefore I am, but that's all I know for sure. I'm not going to believe that anymore. But the point being right now is what I'm saying is I'm proud of my agnosticism. I'm no longer ashamed of it because it's not something to be ashamed of because we have no right to impose anything on anyone's life that we can't defend rationally, that we can't defend with the scientific method, that we can't defend with the standard of the court system, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If we're going to impose things on anyone else, and we're not um, filtering or gauging that imposition with a system that has no presupposition whatsoever, is purely based on the facts on the ground as basic and as plain as possible. If you don't operate like that, that is that is reprehensible. You are a danger to society. Obviously, I'm not talking about people with faith. I'm talking about people with too much faith, with weaponized faith. Too much of anything is bad. Too much of any good thing is bad. There's no such thing as not too much of any good thing, and faith is no different. Your faith is precious. I understand that. It was precious to me too. It was so painful to lose it in that slow way I did. So I would be a danger to society as well, I think, if I were to go around taking faith from people, if that was my mission. Absolutely not. But if you're like, if you're overdosing, if you're using it as a weapon, if you're justifying hurting people, which is what many ultimately what many traditional Catholic influencers do, and kind of the whole trad Catholic culture does at the end of the day. It's just undeniable. They hurt people so much, so deeply, with all they throw up is the veneer of this is good for you, this is better for you, and that's sometimes true, But if you refuse to demonstrate that, if you fall back on, if you resist the pushback against your actions by saying that you're denying uh my religious liberty, my right to believe whatever I want. No, we're not. We're stopping your belief to we're stopping your right to do whatever you want because you don't have that right. My agnosticism doesn't give me the right to impose that worldview. I think it's the correct one, but obviously part of that worldview is a compartment that is open and willing to have that changed. It's always there and it always has to be. And if it's not there, if you refuse to allow it there, if you refuse to if you close yourself off to the thought that maybe this person's experience was so bad that that it doesn't justify anything I might think or anything I might believe, you are a narcissistic sociopath at the end of the day. There's shades of this and degrees, of course, but you are not a good person. If your faith is so important to you that you're indifferent and take part in the suffering of others. So that's why I recently came to realize that my agnosticism is something I'm very proud of right now, personally. Again, initially that's funky to say because it's all about doubt and uncertainty, really. How can you be proud of that? How could no one's proud of uncertainty. Nobody's proud of um indecision, but we need to be on the cosmic questions because we're incredible creatures. We can do so much. But we have held back so much and destroyed so much and ruined and hurt so many lives and destroyed so much peace because of certain people's own personal um, inability to accept the possibility that this world was not created by a god, or if it was created by some sort of god or supreme divine being, there's no way that this God is all loving. Might not be evil, but at the very least indifferent. At the very least, I heard a lot uh, from, I still do, from Catholic apologetics that the problem of evil is the best argument atheists have. Maybe there's a reason for that. There's simply too much evil, too much, uh, to believe that a, as I see it, to believe that a good God, um, that all loving God and all good God is possible. It's not. That doesn't mean we despair. That doesn't mean we lose hope. That doesn't mean we're awful to people. It means the opposite. It means we have a greater responsibility to, uh, we have more of a responsibility to treat people well. We have more of a responsibility to make the world a better place. We can't just fall back on, our faith. We can fall back on it in our own homes with ourselves, but when you have people who follow the ideas within that faith that branch off into imposition, into dominance, into empire, you're how should I put this? Well, I already put it. You're a narcissistic sociopath at the end of the day. You value your own personal well-being more than others, more than many others, more than society's well-being. I'm super excited for the shitstorm of comments I'm probably going to receive for this if this particular video gets any traction. But I'm doing this particular video to take more of a to not specifically go into traditional Catholicism here and specific issues and problems and what this recent influencer said, and just take a bird's eye view and explain my personal disbelief in any divine creator or anything, why I am an agnostic and why I can solidly plant myself there. And I can wave my agnostic flag. I can um because as I see it, it's the most moral way to be. It's the most uh decent way to be. Doesn't mean you're obviously it doesn't I feel like a broken record. More power to you if your faith um well, it obviously would anchor you and comfort you. That's why you have faith. It's why belief it's and it's true for sure. But the the response I always get to the question of, well, what if God is indifferent or not all loving is, well, I don't want to live in a world like that. Well, that's an argument from emotion. I'm sorry. That's not rational. I don't want to live in a world like that. Uh, doesn't change the world. You have to look at the world as it is. And as it is, good and bad things are just too close together. There's too much of the bad. There's a lot of the good, but and I'm not even necessarily saying that there's more bad in the world than good. I'm saying there's so much bunched up, mixed together, and there's so much gray. There's a little black and white. It's a little black and white in the world, but it's mostly gray out there. And to blind yourself to all that gray, at the end of the day, is not uh, is not moral and not good. It might be painful to, which certainly was for me, but I found ways to overcome that. I found ways to a large degree, not 100%, move beyond that existential angst and to anchor myself comfortably in a belief system, which in my belief system is the my belief system is a belief system is unknowable, a completely accurate, certain view of ultimate truth and ultimate morality is unknowable. We're not capable of it. And I have to reiterate that more and more to myself because it's not a popular idea. It's not a fun idea, but it's reality. And I have no choice but to adjust accordingly if I want to feel like being a decent person. And like I said in my introduction, mainstream Catholics, for the most part, um, don't use their faith as a weapon and don't use their faith to make the world a worse place. But that's what traditional Catholics do for the most part, as I see it. And I'm doing my best to push against that. So, you know, if you want to skip, I guess I should have said this at the beginning, but if you're looking for more, specifically tradcath related stuff, this might be one to skip, but trying my best to take a as much of a bird's eye view, big picture view as I can, give it to you guys so you just understand more and more where I'm coming from. So yeah, have a great day and fly away to victory, you guys.